to another Minecraft redstone video. Today's video is not really a tutorial, but kind of like a clarification. And I get asked a lot, and also a lot of people have always wondered but never really found out. But at least on Bedrock Edition, what's the best way to send a signal upwards in Minecraft? So there are a lot of different ways. Here I have some popular ones or some ideas that might work, and so I'm going to be comparing not just their speed, but their price and how easy they are to build in survival, for example, and also how compact they are and things like noise. So first, um, the way I'm going to test speed is by pressing this button. They'll all fire at once, and you can see that they all go at different speeds. Some are faster than the other, and that one's just a different version of the one to the left, just so that it could be tiled next to each other. I'm going to press the button again. See, by far the slime and the redstone block is the fastest. Um, but actually there is one more that is faster, and that's the one to the left. But I'll explain that later. Now the only problem with this is that you can't have two of these next to each other. They're a bit laggy, and the redstone blocks can be expensive. And but other than that, they are. If you just want one signal to be sent up, it can be a pretty good way. Now you might be thinking, because there is honey blocks now, that we can actually tile um, these blocks. I mean these redstone signals, but actually it's there's a couple problems with that, so you have to actually edit it, and it's a bit hard to build because of how slime works. It's even worse with honey because you cannot jump and place blocks, and you also have to put an air gap between the redstone block and the piston. And then I'm going to show you how um, the two things do not tile right. And what happens is when you have two of these next to each other, even though the slime and the honey do not stick to each other, what happens is when you fire the one to the left, now the slime is touching the redstone block to the right of it, and when you try retracting it, it does not work anymore. So unless they are both broken at the exact same time, like exact same tick, it will not work. And that kind of makes it a bit harder, which means you have to offset them in something similar to this, which can be annoying. Um, so usually if you have to put multiple signals next to each other, I would not recommend um, doing that kind of signal. Um, and the next thing I'm going to show is this one right here. And even though it looks like there's nothing there, if you look closely when I fire, um, sand shoots up instantly. And sadly, this will be patched in the next update. It's a very cool mechanic, and they're removing this piston stacking mechanic. Um, but what's so fast about this one is that even though in short distance it's not that fast, it is instant. So that if you can build this from Y0 to Y build limit, and it will instantly trigger the redstone lamp, no matter what. And the pistons can glitch out the sand that gets stacked on top of the other piston head, and that's what creates entire contraption. Although it is a bit laggy because these are all entities and not blocks. So unless in certain scenarios where you really need it, I wouldn't have ever built this. Or this is the same mechanic that my 32 by 32 sand door uses. Um, but as I said, this is getting patched now, so we need more alternatives. And the next one is this torch tower, which is a classic, and it still is a all-around best. It's pretty fast. I mean, out of all of these, it is pretty much the last because the rest are also insanely fast. But there are way slower methods to send signals upward, and it's also very cheap because redstone torches are just sticks in redstone and then just random blocks. Now the one on the left is basically the same thing, but there is a piston between, which also carries the signal um like one block faster. So it's a teeny bit faster, but it's also a lot laggier, more expensive, and creates more noise. But it is still a lot faster than the torch method. Next, This is using doors. It doesn't have to be iron doors, but doors and observers, and with a block in between, which actually makes a very fast signal. The only problem is that it can't stay on, so if you hold the button down, it will only flash once, and then once it turns off, it'll flash again. And then this, I just put this in here just to show uh, that on Java Edition, this would normally be the instant redstone signal, but on Bedrock, as you see, it's extremely slow and pretty much useless. So there also is one more method that I'm going to be showing here, and this is going to be using um, glass or half slabs to carry just normal redstone dust signal. Now this one is not really tileable unless you put the repeater at um, signal strength 15, well, 15 um, blocks away from the source, so that it will only activate one slice. But um, this can be a pretty cheap and easy way. It can be a pain to build in survival because you have to go back and forth placing the redstone dust and digging out into like a checkerboard pattern, but it still is pretty fast. And let me just finish wiring this up. Now the only problem is that it's um, a bit hard to calculate where the actual signal ends. So from here, the redstone dust is not live anymore. So then what we need to do here is add a torch, or you can add a repeater, but a torch is a lot simpler and faster. And then just place a block up here, then grab a redstone torch, and it will invert the signal, but it will still work like a normal redstone torch tower, but extended, so even faster. Let me just finish wiring up the redstone lamp, and so it's pretty close. Oops, why is it not? Wait, I forgot to put dust here. Let's try it again. Yeah, so it's very, very fast compared to the rest, and it's decently cheap. Just use cobblestone half slabs, and it's pretty fast. And technically, it isn't tileable in this design because the redstone dust will be redirected. But this is just a couple of popular methods of sending a signal upwards. And that's it for this video. There is a couple more ways to send signal up. I didn't include them because they're uncommon, but you can do it with, like, for example, scaffolding. See you guys in the next video.